the risks needed to win a tour stage and why Pogacar flogged his team all day. He was in the leader's jersey, 40 seconds ahead of Jonas. This is the last stage before the first proper rest day. It begins in Aigle. It's the first longer mountain stage, but it's a really tough one to make big differences on the general classification because the last climb is about 12 k's at 7%, then a shallow section at the end, then a descent, then a short section of 4-5% uphill where it's hard to make gaps. And Aigle's where the UCI headquarters are. If you follow me on Twitter, I don't know why, if you don't, you'll know that I've actually had to go there recently during the Dauphiné to do the UCI agent exam. So now I'm a registered agent. Just a bit of extra info for you, background on the channel. The weather conditions are 25 degrees, getting a bit warmer as the week progresses, maybe some reverse swing later. So the break we expected to go would eventually go. Ineos were actually interested in trying to get into that break. You see Van Baarle and Rowe poking their heads out early as the break was forming, and we thought Bora would get in it, Fuglsang for Israel. All the teams that really aren't the main GC teams should have been trying to be represented, and Van Baarle again tried. Jorgensen and Verona got a bit of a free roll from Movistar, which I like to see. Thibaut Pinot made the move. UAE moved to the front. We're about to block everything up. Castro Vallejo's in there. Jungels, Verona, Conrad, who won a tour stage last year, Hosens. It's all blocked up. It's gone, right? Incorrect. Total Energy try to bridge across because they've missed it. Niels Pollitt is marking it because his teammates are in the break. McNulty's marking it because he's not happy with other teams trying to reinitiate the break proceedings. And Wout van Aert starts to bridge across for Jumbo Visma. I guess because UAE would then be represented and Izagirre bridges across because Conrad's up the road. And so Wout gets carried basically to the first intermediate. He gets a free 20-point buffer on Jakobsen, even though he's already mathematically won. Like, green is over. It was over yesterday. To be honest, it was over before yesterday. If you listen to the Lantern Rouge Cycling podcast, you'd know that. And UAE start pacing really hard. Now, I got it at this point. Jumbo and Ineos got to chill because Hirschi's going to drop before the first climb, so you may as well keep the gap tight with Hirschi and Bjerg before they drop later, and then you can let the break go out. And you see Pogacar discussing with Bennett, and there's Uran in the break. He's on 340 or so on GC, but he lost a lot last year on GC. McNulty's in the break. Would he be a satellite rider for UAE later? Or I guess he just got in there and happened to be in there. Not a bad card to have. But yeah, it seemed to me more than just pacing the break to give yourself some wiggle room later. I mean, the break was finessing a bit, like Pollard and co. They weren't going too hard, these strong guys, and so the 230 was a lot. They still were keeping a lot in reserve. The Jungels of this world, Hirschi, the ghost of Mark Hirschi was pacing on the 13k 4% climb, and then he and Bjerg would be gone whilst the break's working reasonably well together. And then there's another conversation between Bjerg and Pogacar. I can't figure out exactly what they said. Here's what Pogacar had to say about the rationale after the stage.
We saw the team working really hard. Were you worried about some of the guys in the breakaway?
No, I was more worried about the guys in our group. I mean, not worried, but yeah, we did pace that we liked and continue like this to the finish.
So he wasn't worried about Uran. Maybe he was trying to see if Roglic was under pressure. It doesn't really make much sense to me. And Bjerg, I think Bjerg was saying, why are we doing this? But no relenting of the pace. They'd pace all day. Maybe Pogacar wanted the bonus seconds at the finish if they were on offer, but a really hard day for UAE when they could have given the jersey away. Col de la Croix, 8k, 7.5%. Jungels already starts looking good. Soler's pacing behind. He brings the gap down to about 2 minutes. The satellite riders, possibly Verona, Castro, McNulty, aren't helping at this point, and I do wonder whether Castro only got the green light to go for the stage really late because he finished well but wasn't active at the front on the climbs until late as Jungels puts the pressure on Conrad. You remember Conrad did the same thing last year, going solo on stage 16 ahead of Godou and Colbrelli, I think, taking the win with a long solo from a largish group, and Jungels does the same thing. He doesn't wait for the break to continue finessing, to get caught, guys attacking each other. He felt good. He attacked. It was Wout van Aert pacing him back, actually, with not too many other teams helping. Geschke goes to the KOM points. He gets dropped on the descent, and I'm thinking, oh, okay, Wout van Aert, we're on top level descenders, and Van Aert's heavy too, so he can go fast downhill. UAE probably going to give back another 20 seconds on the descent because Bob Jungels was absolutely bombing. He drops Geschke very quickly on the descent. He puts time into this group, which isn't being led by Uran and Van Aert for a while. And yeah, like you just see Super Tuck or not, Jungels maybe one day I'll have the full file of this descent. It was an absolutely magic one, and he cornered perfectly, and he put like 30 seconds into this big group, as you see Uran now chasing through this small town. The problem for him was the valley coming up later, but you see he's probably doing at parts on this descent speeds in excess of 95, 100 kilometers an hour. You can't even see what's coming up. Mental. This is the commitment they need, I guess, to win a Tour de France stage when you have the peloton actively chasing you like UAE. But even the breakaway, 101, we've got this 20k valley, 240 to the peloton. Jungels puts time into them before the Morgin climb. So even though they were rolling through, I'm not sure there was too much commitment from that group. Soler was still on the front at this point, looking pretty haggard for UAE as Jungels gets to the base of that climb, still Wout van Aert pacing on the front, keeping that breakaway 120 ahead of UAE, who are now pacing with Bennett, Martinez, and Vlasov, the GC contenders who have dropped today. Pinot begins a bridge across to Bob Jungels, leaving the two engines, Verona and Castro, behind. I do wonder if that was a mistake, even though Jungels was starting to suffer a little bit. McNulty, who'd been in the break sitting on all day, would then go back to the peloton. And we think, are UAE going to try and set something up? They hadn't really paced hard enough. All the other GC contenders are still there. And Jungels benefited from the last 3Ks of this climb. You see him getting the drops much, much faster. That's why I think if Pinot had, or maybe he couldn't wait for them, Verona and Castro, he could have brought it back with them a bit easier because it's much quicker. We've got a short descent, then 4Ks, 4.5%, and that's benefiting Jungels. 20 seconds at the top goes to 30 seconds after the descent, but Pinot's looking good. Pinot should win a stage in this Tour if he plays his cards right, but it would not be today. He's even caught by the two Spanish habitual domestiques, but Jungels wins the stage. An unbelievable win for him. He's battled with injury and sickness. So glad to see him win. And Pogacar gets his team to do a lead out and goes for a full gas sprint, but can't gap Jonas. He does take 3 seconds on all the other main GC contenders, but Jungels wins the stage. Pogacar keeps the yellow jersey, extends his lead on Yates, Thomas, Mas, Quintana, Roglic by about 3 seconds. But damn, that was a lot of work he put his team to today. Even when it looked like the break was winning and the stage was gone, for no time gain on Jonas, whilst Ineos and Jumbo pretty much got to sit in the wheels all day. Whether that matters in the end, who knows? This is what he had to say after the stage.
Do you feel a lot of pressure on your shoulders?
I don't know, a little bit, yeah, but it's no problem. We go as every day, stage by stage, and with a good mentality, good motivation until the Paris.
Subscribe down below if you enjoyed the video. Rest day tomorrow. Might have a little treat for you later in the evening. It's a heat wave coming. Stay safe, and I'll see you then. Ciao.